Hey everybody, welcome back to another movie review. Hope you guys been enjoying the content on the channel as of late. I wasn't planning on checking this out, but when I went to see The Roses, I saw the trailer for this and I became fascinated. So I decided to check this out, and I just came back from seeing it. So that film we're going to be discussing today is Twinless, which was written and directed by James Swidney, who also co-stars in the film, actually primarily stars in the film. This is his second directorial outing, his first being a film called Straight Up, which came out in 2019, and now he follows it up with Twinless. This co-stars Dylan O'Brien, amongst some other names here and there, names that I am not too familiar with. But this tells a story of, primarily at the start, of Dylan O'Brien's character named Roman. And he is a twin also named Rocky. And one of those twins, Rocky, unfortunately had died in a fatal way through a car accident. And while he is grieving, he decides to go to a support group that also involves that of people who have lost their twins in one way or another. And when in this meeting, he meets a man named Dennis, and Dennis, who played by James Whitney, both take up an interest of each other, and they form some kind of friendship. And the film details and explores the events that transpired during and before Rocky's passing, and ultimately unraveling some secrets that actually are bellowing within this dynamic between these two. So it starts out as a story about friendship and about bondage and about connections, and primarily the film is about that. It is squarely to do about connections and about the lingering sense of loneliness and the varying depictions of it and the varying reasonings behind that loneliness. For some people, it's grieving. For other people, it is the insecurities within themselves. And eventually, it starts to evolve into that statement, into something a little bit more sincere, and at the same time, something rather creepy, which is now the desperation in that connection that that individuals may have, specifically within James Sweeney's character, which I won't really give away because I think that the film deliberately so is marketing it in that fashion to kind of to leave the secrets, in some mystique, and I will do the same in the in the spirit of what the film is getting at, or the marketing is getting at, but I do think, though, that it does represent these ideas in very compelling ways, very engaging ways, I must say, also, because a lot of my interest was just there. I was just glued to the screen, specifically when it came to these performances. Dylan O'Brien and James Sweeney, specifically, there's a lot of points, deliberately so, where the camera is like zooming in on the actors' faces for quite a long time, and it is up to that performer to really bring out the energy and to really express that circumstance of what is happening at that point in time. And these two do very, very well. Dylan O'Brien, you can very much tell he has this reserved nature about him, but also this internal anger that is externalized in quite explosive manners. Where James Sweeney's character, again, has these reservations, but there's something else to him. There's something, in some ways, I will say, relatable, quite sympathetic about him, but also something very, very odd about him as well. And I won't say in what ways, because that will spoil the film. But the two, I feel, and everyone around them as well, I feel, just bring about very, very compelling performances and elevate what I believe is, frankly, a little long-winded. I do believe the film could have been done in a much shorter capacity. In some ways, I feel like this is a short film packaged in a feature film. But I feel that the one quibble that I would give to the film, and what I feel is kind of holding it back for me, where I can say that something like this is great, because it's gotten a lot of strong reception to it. But my opinion of it is a little bit lesser because of my opinion to the story about how the narrative is overall told. Because I do believe that it ironically lacks in emotional satisfaction, because there are, the way that this story is being told is that it is a very real world type of circumstance. It's not something that is fantastical or takes, is a something out of reach, from our own experiences, from human experiences. This is an experience or a circumstance that very much so could happen in real life, and probably has happened in real life in some manner. Um, and I feel as though that there are liberties taken within that setup to deliver its impact of its ideas. And I noticed that, it wasn't where I just was shielded from that. It is something that I feel is a bit noticeable. And what you get is that you have something that is being billed as sincere, but it comes across in some ways of very, very creepy, especially because of just what is at stake, or what is just being, what is being cooked as an overall situation. There's that side that where you do enlisted sympathy because of just overall what the film is making a point of. And I do like, it's in some points visually how that film represents the idea of that desperation within connection, or trying to find someone who can ride the same wavelength as you. There's a point that happens throughout the film where Dylan O'Brien and James Sweeney's characters both engage with an individual, like a grocery person, or they're at a restaurant and the waitress comes up and they're like, would you guys like to order? And then they'll do that thing where that thing that some people do where they talk to someone at the exact same time. And in many ways, encounters, in many situations, they're not saying the exact same things. And then at the very end of the film, they end up saying the very same thing. So it's just, a way to package in those thematic ideas. And those ways of doing so, I feel, are very much more sincere and very more impactful. In the way of what the overall story is being built, I just feel that though there is that doubt in how things are lining up and how things are meeting its end, and ultimately how some characters choose to engage with other characters once information is understood, or once information is revealed to them. It just feels as though that is where the mechanics of the screenplay start to really show. But otherwise, I feel as though that how it is expressed, by how it is acted, by how it is overall crafted, I feel as though there's a lot there to be desired. I mean, technically also it is quite stylish. There's a point to where I was very, very impressed by how they were operating the camera. There's a point where it reminded me of like Vortex, if you guys have never seen that film, Gaspar Noé's film. It was the only film of his I've actually have seen so far, where it is showing you two perspectives playing at the exact same time, and this film does that. But at some point, they find a way to actually marry the two different shots together, and I don't know how they were able to accomplish that. Maybe those like VFX or other things going on, but very, very impressive. Just generally speaking, with some of the framing, with how lighting is played to certain scenes, it's technically very, very stylish and very, very, very appealing. But generally, I had a good time with it. I think it has a good sense of pace. I think that like for the most part, like I said, it can get a little long-winded for my taste. It feels though that could have been cut down. But I do engage with their performances. I engage with its overall craftsmanship. I was very intrigued, by how just they are laying out the circumstance. But my issues do come from ultimately sitting with that circumstance as time persists, as time moves on, and realizing a lot of the liberties that are taking place in order to get to the point of its ideas, and lacking in that emotional satisfaction as the film meets its conclusion, because it comes across more creepy than anything else. And I just, I feel as though that was part of the film's understanding of that circumstance, and it ultimately is the main thing that you take away from it when it's all said and done, and less so of that sincere element that it's trying to get to. But it has its moments. It has its moments of tenderness. It has its moments of true intrigue and engagement. And I think a lot of that stems from the performances. And as I said, I think it really is what elevates this pitch. and it pays off in many ways. And other ways, I feel as though that it could have been. I feel like that more of an examination of how that screenplay is evolving and how things are like meeting its end or meeting at a certain place. Interactions, developments, certain things within that screenplay, I feel needed to be reconsidered to meet at a better place. Because I just feel more creeped out than sympathetic when it was all said and done. So those are my thoughts on Twinless. I thought it was good. I can't say it was great, but I thought it was good. Like I said, good performances, very engaging, just craftsmanship, and just generally just heavy interest. My eyes were just glued to the screen the entire time. I'd noticed myself at some point. I was just like, wow, I'm really, really engaged with this. But like I said, narratively, just by what is written and how things evolve in terms of a structure, I just take issue with where we end up and ultimately the liberties that are frankly taking place to get to that thematic study within this real world situation. I just started to notice that, and I found some doubts in how it was literally being directed. But those are my thoughts on Twinless. You guys let me know your thoughts on Twinless if you guys have seen it. And if you're familiar with James Sweeney's feature debut, be interested to know your thoughts there. But let me know all your thoughts on Twinless in the comment section below. And that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until then, I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.